let's move on to running backs.
Let's do it.
All right. I'm going to lead off at the top here. I'm going to take my high tier guys just away from you right away. It's McCaffrey and Kamara. So McCaffrey's obvious. The Saints, I think, like you guys said, their offense is good. Their defense played well last week, but I mean, it could be an outlier game, and the NFL is going to put up points. McCaffrey's going to get his no matter what. I just hope.
Joe? Frozen?
I'm still here.
All right.
I don't know what happened.
Oh, there he is. Okay.
He's back.
Let's roll.
Hey, ho,
Hey,
ho,
still here.
ho.
So Kamara,
All right.
Kamara's probably my favorite running back this year. He's getting all the touches. I know they threw the ball 5 touchdowns. Jameis only threw the ball 14 times. They just happen to be in fucking 30 yards out every single drive. But Kamara's their guy. He's their bell cow. He's getting the ball. He's going to get the catches, especially if there's a close game, especially in the fourth quarter. Kamara's going to get the ball a ton. 8,800 for Kamara. That's too cheap for Kamara right now. So McCaffrey and Kamara at the top. I'll be playing them a lot. Our listeners know that most of our strategy is go high at running back as much as you can, unless we find those mid-tier guys we think can outprice them. So Kamara is probably my absolute favorite, but McCaffrey is a must-play in most of your lineups.
All right. Cool. So I'm with you with CMC up top. I mean, there's not really a discussion. The dude falls out of bed and gets 30 points almost. So as far as the other high-end guy that I liked a lot this week is Mr. Give Me a Chubb. Nick Chubb is going to go off.
God.
Nick Chubb's he's going to smoke the Texans. Joe, you had a call last week of him, and Jim and I both were a little bit unsure of the game script and everything. I think it was just a reminder of how good this guy is. If it wasn't for Kareem Hunt, I mean, he may be up there with Kamara and CMC and Cook as far as price-wise and like usage-wise. You always have to worry about Hunt snaking a touchdown or something, but I think there's enough pie to go around against Houston this week, who is probably a black swan event against Jacksonville. Like, they're not a good team.
If there was minor league football, those teams would be in minor league football.
Yeah, I think they're going to blow Houston out, but I think Chubb could very easily, go 120, 150 yards on Sunday, and they just won't have to really throw.
He can break off an 80-yarder any moment. He's that good.
Yeah. Yep.
Houston and Jacksonville is the equivalent to the NFL of 9-man football in high school. I mean, it's just like that. It was perfect that they played each other last week.
They should just play each other each week. Maybe mix in Detroit, but
God, and it would give Urban another fake heart attack even quicker. So McCaffrey obviously is still too cheap for McCaffrey. He's still under 10,000. Like I mentioned, he got 27 points last week, and he didn't have a touchdown. He also didn't hit either bonus for over 100 rushing yards or over 100 receiving yards. He was close with the rushing. He had 96 yards rushing. But, yeah, that's obviously another one. The one for me is going to be Austin Eckler. Now this year, without, Kalen Ballage and all that weird shit that was going on last year, I mean, he's getting every single red zone carry. So on top of the passing stuff, like, he's just getting all of the volume. So we're talking about guys, 7,000 and up right now. He might be my highest owned player this week. We talked about how much we like that game. If it's really well into my full game stacks that, we'll kind of talk about a little bit later. But, I think that he's going to have a monster game this week. I think he could maybe be the highest scoring running back of the whole slate. And if I can get that at $7,300, which, I love Kamara too, and I'm going to play Kamara, but that's $1,500 less than Kamara. Yeah. Like, where else can I get? What else can I do with that $1,500, like, to improve my lineup? So he edges out Kamara just because I think they have about the same projection this week, but he's $1,500 cheaper, so that's where it'll go for me.
Dig it.
All right, back to me.
Yeah, from mid-tier. So that's going to be, $6,900 to $5,500.
All right, well, I'm going to go a little above that just to mix in. I'm not talking about him. 7K. I mean,
all right, your range sucks.
That's mid-tier to me. So, I mean,
it's all right.
We were all over Mixon last week. We said he was going to get all the touches.
Yes.
He was going to be the man. He's that good. Don't ignore him. And he led the entire league in DFS running backs. He got the most points out of anybody. I'm a little scared. Tons of ownership's going to move on to him. He was probably like 12% owned last week in most leagues. I'm a little bit worrisome about that, but I'm trying my best not to worry about ownership this year and then to pick my guys. So I'm not really worried about that. Chicago doesn't scare me. Like I said, they're playing very uninspired. Joe Mixon's still going to get 25 plus carries. So,
dude, I think real quick in there, I think a lot of people still think of the Bears as like a defensive juggernaut, and they're going to see playing Chicago, and they're going to be like, oh, I'm not touching that with Khalil Mack on them there. Yes, Khalil Mack is amazing. I don't know. Roquan Smith's really good. Outside of that, I don't know who is. So I think people are going to like see that and freak out, but keep going. I think it'll be okay.
Yeah, and on top of that, it seems like Zach Taylor, he's playing this right. He's not dropping Burrow back 60 times. He's at least establishing a run game and getting some play action and protecting his quarterback, at least trying to protect his quarterback and doing that way. So I believe they're going to stay with that game plan, especially since they got a win in week 1. So I like Mixon again this week. I'll be playing him quite a bit.
Cool. Jim, you want to hit it?
So it's pretty easy for me this week. The guy who got the absolute most usage at running back last week, Nadja Harris. He played 100% of the running back snaps. The 2 running back snaps he did not play was the victory formation kneel down at halftime and the victory formation kneel down at the end of the game. Other than that, he played 100% of the snaps. Did not get a price bump. He's the same price as he was last week, and I have no idea why. Yep. So he's got a ceiling that rivals a lot of these guys in here that are priced higher than him. If you were going to tell me, I don't know why on earth you would play Derrick Henry over a Najee Harris for $2,000 more.
Agreed.
I get that, he didn't get into the end zone. He's still going to – I think he's going to be fine. I think you can safely expect 18 to 20 points from him with a ceiling of probably somewhere in the 30 to 32 range. So, if we can get that from 6,300, all day long, that's 5, 6X. That's fine with me, right? The other guy for mid-range that he's kind of the only guy in town. He's a little bit banged up, but he did practice limited today, is Chris Carson. He's the only guy in town. Tennessee's defense, not very good, right? It just so happened last week that Russ hit, 2 extremely long bombs to Lockett and then another long bomb to Metcalf. That's not going to happen every single week. Those are really, really low percentage touchdowns that 3 of them happened in a game last week. So I think there's some positive touchdown regression opportunity for Chris Carson built into the game this week. And I think he has a really, really, really high boom rate where he has the ability to just go off, and he can have, I don't know if he's going to have a massive yard game, but he could certainly have one of those games where he has 17 carries for 84 yards and three rushing touchdowns, right?
Well, look at this. He rushed for 16 carries, 91 yards, 3 catches, 26 yards in this past week against a really hard matchup against the Colts. Yeah. It's almost as tough as it gets. Now you get to go against Tennessee, which are completely shit. So I think your projection is way too low, Jim. I think he gets 20 carries for 120, 125, and maybe sneaks a touchdown or two in.
Yeah.
So I love the Carson play.
Yep. So those are my 2 mid-range guys. Vinny, where are you going in that 5,500 to 7,000 range?
Yeah, you guys named a lot of the guys that I'm on as well. Najee, I love. Mixon, I love. The only other guy that I'd say that I probably have my eye on in this range is David Montgomery. He looked really, really good. Andy Dalton is absolute trash. He could get pulled at any second, which changes that game. But you obviously can't project that as of now. No. How it sits, David Montgomery looks like a pretty good play. The Bengals aren't very good, obviously, against the run. It's kind of all they have, right? My only fear with David Montgomery is, his ownership. I'm not going to play him if he's super chalky. If he's going to be 20% over, people watch the primetime game, see him at 6,100, maybe that's who they plug in as RB2 or 3, but if he's like moderate to like low, I'll have David Montgomery for sure.
I don't think that he is going to be very highly owned this week.
I hope not.
I think
that game's everyone. I think a lot of people are fading that game, to be honest.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are fading that game, and I think a lot of people are going to play a lot of Melvin Gordon this week. They saw him with that big run at the end of the week last week. They're playing Jacksonville, right? So I think that he's going to suck up quite a bit of that, and I think a lot of people are going to play Zeke this week, which I think Zeke is a fine play, but for $100 less, I would much rather play Montgomery or Carson.
Yeah.
Right? So, I mean, I don't know that ownership is going to be an issue with Montgomery. And then also, kind of like Joe said, I think we have to understand that, I think we play a lot of single entry and 3 maxes, and ownership just really, you just got to play your guys, right?
Yeah.
There's ways to get weird, and there's ways, but we're not playing the Millie Maker. We're not playing these big 150 max tournaments where ownership really does matter, right? And these guys can get really weirdly owned. But like, if that's your guy and that's the guy who you want to play, I mean, I think you just play him. I don't think any of these running backs are going to be over 20% owned this week. And, 25 to like 30% owned is really the threshold where I start to ask some questions to myself about like, hey, do I really want to play this guy at like this price, or is there somebody else that I can get some leverage on in the 3 max, right? So I think you'll be good, man. Since
he's not a core guy for me. He's just somebody I like down there. Like is a very viable option, and probably will be in the player pool. And the only other guy. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I agree that David Montgomery, I think he's a good runner. And I think the one thing Nagy can do is actually dial up some good run plays every once in a while.
Yeah.
They don't have a good offensive line, and they still seem to bust loose on run plays. So if Nagy has one thing he does well, he dials up some run plays. And I think Montgomery's a pretty solid player. So I do like it.
And the only other guy that I really have, he stretches your little limit there of 5,500 and above, but I like Damian Harris a lot at 5,400. Look, the Jets are not good. I know he's not CMC, but McCaffrey just ran all over these guys last week. I don't think the Patriots are a team that's going to want to go out there and fire it, 50 times with Mac Jones. Like, I think Damian Harris will get 15 to 25 carries somewhere in there, and I think he could easily hit that 100-yard mark against the Jets.
You're not worried about Belichick and the fumbling thing?
No, because as I heard earlier today, as a good reminder, is his backup had 2 carries and fumbled as well. So you can't really replace him. I agree with you. I absolutely would have fell into that narrative, but that's I'm not like terribly afraid of it. But at 5,400, again, he is the starter there. He's going to get the bulk of the carries. Like, against a horrible Jets defense, like, I have a little interest.
Well, since you dipped under there, is there anybody else you like there, or Joe? You want to take it over?
Yeah, one guy. We got Chase Edmonds at 4,900.
How did he not go up in price?
This is the other guy that I was talking about.
And I know he only got 12 carries, but he got 4 catches, and all of his he went for 43 yards in the air. He went over 100 yards total. He didn't get in the end zone, but he still got 15 points last week. And again, he's 4,900. He got 3x last week without a touchdown.
Yes.
And that offense, the volume's going to be there. They're going to get their points. And Chase Edmonds is all part of that electric fire they got. You don't even know who's getting the ball. It's just mayhem all the time. So 4,900 is too cheap. He's going to be a 6K running back in a week or two. So I'm jumping all over that.
Yeah. Jim, go ahead and wrap it up. And then if there's anyone, I have one guy. If you don't hit him, I'll talk to him or talk about him.
So I think this is a Nyheim Hines week against the Rams. We talked about the Rams. Nyheim Hines is kind of the same mold as Chase Edmonds, right? He plays the passing downs. He's going to get a lot of catches. The Rams linebackers aren't particularly good. So the middle of the field is somewhere I think where the Rams can be exploited. We saw Cole Kmet do it last week in that kind of the mid-range, but I think that they actively game plan to get Hines the ball. He's a player that they like. And, I mean, for a guy this far down, he could easily have 20 points. All he has to do is fall into the end zone on one of these plays, and he's good. And then the other guy that I like, we talked about his counterpart, but at 4,400, Javonte Williams against the Jacksonville Jaguars. It's a true 50-50 split with Melvin Gordon right now, right? But at 4,400, to Joe's point, we need 12 to 13 points from this guy. We don't need, 30, 40 points that we're looking for out of McCaffrey, hopefully, to help us win a GPP. At 4,400, if we're going to get 12 to 14 carries, Fangio loves to run the ball, and they're playing Jacksonville. So, and at the end of the game, if they're beating the shit out of Jacksonville, who are they going to give the workload to? They're going to give it to the young kid. They're not going to give it to Melvin Gordon, who has perennial injury problems already. I think it's going to be a really, really low-owned play that basically nobody's going to have, and I'm going to have a fair amount of exposure to it.
Bang. Love it.